Cool. So now we have successfully came out of OData services, but that doesn't mean we will not be working back again on GW transaction. We will be working on that gateway builder. Anyway, if you still have something to know from the GW project point of view, so you still can go ahead and practice. And if you have any issues, you can come back. So now we are moving to CDS views, core data services. So as everybody is eager to learn about CDS views, here we go. We start creating a CDS view on our custom table, whatever we have created, and then we will try to understand what is going on with this. Okay, so there are let me log into my SAP system as well. So this is my header table at the moment. Let me display it. Here we go. And now going back to Eclipse. So we all know that CDS views can only be developed or changed using ADT, which is Eclipse. ADT stands for ABAP Development Tools. Okay, so here we just need to create a project, ABAP project, if we want to. So this is where we start. So we choose the system, whatever we want to create project. So this is how we add our ABAP system into our Eclipse. Okay, so if you don't have any project created on your Eclipse, you just go and launch your Eclipse, then create ABAP project, choose create ABAP project and select the system and click on next. Okay, it pops up with this information. We don't need to change anything here, and then just go ahead. And the client, our client is 400, and give your user ID here, SAP backend user ID here, and the backend password. And you can click next, and here we will have an option to customize your project name here. Okay, and I'll name it this one to my customized name here. So I'll just finish it. So that both are same systems. If you see, I can create multiple projects in the form of multiple projects. It doesn't stop us. Eclipse doesn't stop us creating any more projects using the same system with different names. Okay, so now I'll just expand this one. If we expand, we will have more options here. And favorite packages, favorite objects, favorite packages, and local objects is a system library. So this system library will have all the objects that SAP has delivered as part of S/4HANA product, whatever it could be a S/4HANA cloud or S/4HANA on-premise. So as now we are working on S/4HANA on-premise. So these are all the system library objects based on the package wise. So if you have any specific package to look at, so you can straight away go ahead and look for this package. Otherwise, if you know the package, and here is another way of doing it, favorite packages. So just right click on this one and click on add package. So in this add package, you just look for your package, whatever you have created already. And I'm going to add my Ztara package into my favorite packages. So here it shows all the number of objects created in this package. That includes all the objects, ABAP repository objects. It doesn't mean that only CDS views. So here, if you see that there is further split in this package, dictionary based number range management. So as we have number range objects created, there is number range management as well. Okay, so this number range, other objects, again, whatever we have created, they all will be listed down here. Gateway, for example, here, source code library, basically classes. If we have programs, the programs will display here, and BOPF, everything, whatever source code relevant objects will be listed down here. So if we expand dictionary, so we have here now data elements, domains, and database tables. Okay. Now, what do we need to create? How do we create CDS view? So first of all, we need to be in the ABAP perspective here. This is the first thing actually before creating the project itself. Before creating the project itself, we should click on this open perspective here, or you can find window here, perspective, open perspective. Okay, in the open perspective, other, if you click on this one, the same pop-up will appear here, the ABAP perspective. So we must be on ABAP perspective if we want to create the ABAP project. So now we are all set for now, and let's go ahead and right click on my package here. And if you see, there are numerous options here, but we will learn a few or mostly all of them here. But if I create new here, I don't see the CDSU appearing in my list here. So other ABAP repository object, just go ahead. And here, if you see ABAP, we see many options showing many options are being showed here. But if even if we type data definition, so here we go, core data services. Under core data services, we see the data definition. Okay, so if I see the core data services here, we see many options here, but we will be learning all of them. What is what type of CDS core data service? We prefer short form CDS. What type of CDS view is going to be serving what purpose? So for now, we just go ahead and select data definition, and in the data definition itself, we will have multiple splits. So let me give my data definition name. Trip H. Trip header base. So all these ones, there are limitations. The names, how we name it. Okay, so these names, I'll tell you why I'm giving I here. Okay, and this is going to be a camel case. So this camel case is going to be our view name. Whatever here, it has a length restriction of 30 characters here. So we can't create the CDSU with a name more than 30 characters. Okay, we just give a meaningful name to the CDSU. And now here you see the data reference object. We're not going to use that one at the moment, but we will use that. Click on next. So here it's asking me the transport. I'll just create a new transport for this. Okay, so CDS views. Let's click on next. And once we get in, we see more types of data definition itself. So we have a root level different types of data definitions, but CDS views, but data definition is one of the CDSU type. Even in the data definition, we have many different kinds of um, data definitions available here. Okay, so for now, let me go ahead with the default selected one, define view. Okay, so I have option to, and whenever we select any of the template, this is the template inside the data definition. So whatever the template we choose here, the syntax or the suggestion, the template code template snippet will be displayed underneath it. If you see here, okay. So based on this one, we just check sometimes we will be just checking what kind of template it is generating and etc. So maximum we will cover all of these templates. When do we need um, which template? Okay. So for now, let's go ahead with this define view for now. So finish. So it just goes ahead and inserts this template, the relevant template, whatever we have chosen into our CDS view code implementation. Okay. So here, if you see ABAP catalog, SQL view name. So this is the database view which will be created back in our ABAP DDIC. So DDIC, there will be a structure created, and there will be a mapping between these two, CDSU and DDIC view. Okay, so this was the initial architecture where SAP has released. There will be a SQL view on DDIC, and there will be a CDS view. But now the approach has been changed, but it doesn't mean we are not allowed to create uh, define views, the data definition views along with the DDIC SQL views. Still, we can go ahead and create um, these kind of views. So let us name this SQL view name for this I trip H. So I named the SQL view name as ZI trip H B. So if you click on tab, it's directly going to the highlighted areas here. So if you see there are these the variables have been highlighted in the template. If we want to navigate through those highlighted ones at the initial stage, the very first time when we create CDSU, that time only these variables will be highlighted. And this is my define view. I don't want to change this one anymore. And now I'm just clicking tab, and it's straight away going to my database here. Sorry, data source, from where I need to select my data. So here I'm just giving my database table name. Here we go. And that's it, done. And now I'm coming to my field selection area. And here how we can, if we want to, we can go ahead and pick up these fields and put those fields independently, separated by comma. Okay, or we can just press control space, removing all these fields. If we want the list of all the fields, so control space. In the control space, we see the first option, insert all elements. But if we want any specific elements, then also we can go ahead and select one by one. So if we want to select one by one, that's going to be a tedious task. So once we implemented the CDS view, we have already created CDS view, and if we are changing the CDS view, then the selecting individual fields may be recommended. But apart from that, the very first creation, if you want more fields, then click on insert all elements. Okay, it will insert along with its alias names, the field alias names, and including the key field as well. Whatever the key field that the database has, the same key field also will be included into our CDS view. Okay, so here we go. So our first CDS view got created. So if we want to format this, okay, the same shortcut wise, it's a Shift F1. It will format the CDS view. Otherwise, if you like to use your mouse, right click, source code, format. Okay, so this is how we just format the code in the CDS view. Right now it is looking okay. So if you look at these alias names, we don't need to change anything now. So that is the reason we have created like English like field names in our database table. Whereas in CDS, it automatically removes underscores and pick or frame the field names as the meaningful alias names. Okay, let me activate it. So if you see here, the control F3, it is still the same shortcut we have available on Eclipse as well. So if you want to check, so here we have check the just before to activate. This shortcut is also same, control F2. So you can use this, and I'm straight away activating this CDSU. So once we click on activate, in the right bottom you see this is the status where it is processing activation. So we can even see if something is happening and something taking time, then it will display the percentage as well. So how much percentage the process has been completed. And I think we missed the message what it has displayed. So right now I just clicked on activation again. The left side you could have seen the message that the view has been activated message. Object has been activated. Perfect. So once the object has been activated, then once the object has been activated, so then we can straight away go ahead and look for the content. So now, so while setting up your Eclipse, so in the left pane in your project explorer, there is a both direction uh, left and right arrow marks here. If you click on this one, this will tell you where is your object in your hierarchy in the packages. So after clicking this one, right now it has been identified this object in my project. The hierarchy, it highlights that particular one. Okay. So there are ways of viewing the content of a CDSU. So if you want to right click on your CDSU from your project explorer, so just right click and you can open with data preview. You can see open with data preview. Okay. So otherwise, this is one of the option how we see the content. And another way is straight away we can press F8, which is our very familiar key to execute any of the program. We can straight away press F8 to see the content, or if you want to use your mouse one more time, if you straight look into this uh, Eclipse tool on the top, a green button displayed here, run as. So if you click on this one, you'll see run as here, ABAP application. So if you want to click on the same execute or see the content, then it's perfectly right there for you to execute and to see the content of it. Okay, so good. So now we know how to create CDSU and how what needs to be specified and where. So, and also we know the terminology that these are the aliases, whatever we call here, and it has key fields as well. And this is the data source or database table which we have used as a data source. And on top of this, so this is what something we don't know or we are not familiar with, right? So these are all the terms or keywords called as annotations. So whatever the keyword starts with at the rate in your CDS view, that is going to be an annotation. Okay, so these annotations are the enrichment for the CDS view. So when I say enrichment, each and every annotation, whatever we specify in CDSU, they have individual functionalities driven on their own. Whereas the SAP engine, the compiler will understand these annotations and response or prepares this CDSU accordingly. So if you see here, end user text dot label, for example. So if the end user is using this outside of SAP, so this is what the description is going out. And also how we deal with the translations. Again, if we want to use this in translations, again this end user text is applicable for translations as well. So if we want to maintain any different languages labels, we can go ahead and use this end user text dot label. And the beginning here, ABAP catalog. ABAP catalog, the name itself saying it is something relevant for us. So this one is for DDIC. Wherever we see ABAP catalog, they all for DDIC relevant. If you see here, ABAP catalog, compiler dot compare filter, true, and ABAP catalog dot preserve key, true. So these three are relevant for ABAP dictionary. The first one, we don't have any confusion here. It's a straightforward SQL view. So if you have any CDSU like this, you can straight away copy this SQL view and go into your S11, and in the view you can just paste this SQL view and you can display. So if you see here, it's the same fields whatever we have listed in this particular CDSU, they all will be displayed here. So if you are not taking any of this information, then just try and activate it, and it's gonna activate and it's gonna refresh your SQL view as well. So if you look at this one and go back and come in again, if you see, all those fields have gone. Okay, there are limitations on this particular one. Whereas once we assign it a ABAP SQL name to any of the CDSU, then we won't be able to rename this one because this is specifically assigned to this one. Okay, so if at all you want to do so, then you need to completely delete this CDSU and you have to recreate it. That's what needs to be followed. So when assigning a name, or if you have any specific naming standards, then you must comply with your naming standards at the first instance itself. Otherwise, if you are happy to delete it and recreate it, then that's fine. Once you are if you are doing it as a prototype or something, you just do it and create the new CDSUs following the naming standards, copy the entire thing into your new CDSUs, and you can delete it. So that's the strict restriction allowed here. Okay, and this compare filter, again, it is related to the fields, whatever we have seen here. So it's just allow the comparison between these two CDSU and data dictionary standards. And the next one here, the preserve key. So this has some a significant thing underlying on this one. So this preserve key is, so there will be keys mentioned or used in this particular database projections as well. So if we want to influence the key fields of this CDSU, same key fields on this SQL view as well, then we will use true. Otherwise, if you don't want the trip ID to be considered as a key field while using your DDIC SQL view, then you just make it false, and the standard or pre-built database engines or whatever the projection algorithms built into, they will be used to fetch or the performance point of view. The standard keys will be considered towards fetching the data and improving the performance of the same. And next, moving to this one, the access control. So this access control dot authorization check. So here we have not required at the moment, but if we want to implement any authorization check into this one, okay, so that authorization checks can be done before coming to the CDSU itself using access control. So there was another type of CDSU, if you could have seen access control at the beginning of the dialog. So that CDSU type of CDSU we will use to create an access control for this CDSU. So access control CDSU will use the existing CDSU name to restrict it. So there we have a lot of capabilities, whether we are trying to use any authorization object, or we are trying to use any PFCG role, or we are trying to inherit any of the authorizations from any other CDSU and etc. So we will look into that when we create access control CDSUs. Okay, so similarly, so we have just seen only five annotations which are auto inserted as part of our template. So like this, we have thousands of annotations available in our CDS views. So each annotation will have a independent capability, and we so at some point, whatever the functionality we are trying to achieve, then we might be ending up using the annotation. So that is more powerful. If we specify that annotation, the entire functionality may completely changed and reflected into the consumer, whoever using this CDSU. So by adding this annotations, the complete enrichment will be different. Okay, so now, so in the left side you see outline. So if you are on any CDSU, if you have big CDSU or etc. So here we can see from which table. If you have multiple tables, for example, we see all of them available here. So what are all the elements are being selected from this table? If you have multiple, they all will be displayed here again in the outline. So it's just for our information. I just minimize it. Okay. So any questions on creating CDS? Now you can straight away go ahead and create one type of CDSU.
Changan?
Yes, yes.
What is the working set? I see when you create a project,
Working set.
there will be working set checkbox. Yeah.
While creating the project.
Try to create a project.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is
No, that's
set.
like, yeah, that's like your work list or something. So it's like you will have a lot of local Eclipse features where you can create like your own um, what is that, own workspace. Here you can group multiple systems into one, and there are a lot of things we can do, you can do using Eclipse. That might be a Eclipse feature available here. Okay, so work sets. So these work sets, you can create multiple systems, multiple projects into one work set, and you can expand it. So if you have landscapes like a development system, more development systems um, in your organization. Okay, so one for SRM, one for APO, and one for ECC, and things like that. So then at the time you might need to create a new work set, and you need to add all the development systems into development environment, development landscape, and that improves your way of looking at the projects. So this is, there is no specific functionality behind uh, the backend system. So it's an Eclipse functionality.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Yep. So now nobody is asking question. Why do why? Yeah.
Changal, regarding this authorization check, right?
Correct.
Currently, it is not required by
Yes.
default.
Yes.
So if we are going to enable this
Yes.
required
Yes.
something, right?
Yes.
Then we have to create the CDS with access control.
Correct.
Oh.
Okay. So here we have more values as well here. So if you remove this one, again control space is going to be our um, super keyword, super shortcut keyword to see what are all the possible values here. So if you see here, there are more values here. So it's um, under same annotation, but different values. Okay. So if you are intending to do any of the authorization checks on your CDSU, then it has to be checked. Okay, then only it will go and trigger the access control CDSU. Okay, otherwise it will not. Even if there is a access control CDSU exist for your CDSU, then it will not go and check for authorizations. Okay, whenever if you mention not required. And similarly, we have more not allowed. So authorization check itself, so by default it's not allowed. No access control is performed. Okay, so this is not required. Again, you can see the documentation. If it is clear, I think the same, uh, uh, the annotation information whatever available on the SAP help portals. So this is the short version of that information. So if we are able to get some information from here, then we can accordingly use it. If we are looking for an example, then obviously we should refer to help documentation. I'll tell you how we should looking into. So there are levels of annotations. What annotation comes at what level? So they all we will see slowly. Okay, so for now,
For translation,
yeah,
I mean this end user text label we can translate. That's what you told, right?
yes.
So it will translate automatically, or
No. We need to maintain. So automatically it will not do any translations. So we must go into SE63, and we need to follow the steps from there.
Okay. Then from SE63. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So the next point which I wanted to mention is, so here we shouldn't be seeing this as a single object. Okay, so let me take this CDS here and let me try to open this. We will see. So it was a question from our previous sessions as well, why I'm able to see two entries here. Okay, so I see one data definition and I see one entity here. So in this case, we see two things here. So whatever we mention inside the curly braces, so this is called element. Okay, element or a single entity. But up to here, whatever there on top of or before starting or define view keywords, so this is called view level. So the annotations, whatever we look at help portal or wherever, the scope of the annotation, we must be careful about it. So there will be a detailed mention of the scope of the annotation. The scope, if it is mentioned at view level, we won't be able to use at element level, element or entity level. Okay, so whatever the annotation is allowed to use at element level, it's the same vice versa. We won't be able to use the annotations at view level. So for example, this is the ABAP catalog.sql view. It's a view level. So if we try to bring this down and try to use it, it won't work. Okay, so we will be learning more annotations. Okay, so Hari, for your exercise, as we are here, so if you right click on your view, then here we see get various list of it, and if you click on this one where is list, it will display the hit list if it is being used anywhere else. Okay, so right now it doesn't have any references, it's not being used anywhere. But if I go ahead to my gateway project, let me try to add it. So let me try to add it in the reference. It's no, I think we made it very complex. Include project maybe.
I think you have already added this country text to something, right?
Yeah.
CD.
So yeah, that's not showing. I'm not sure even if this shows, but let's try. So this is what my CDS. So if you see here, it will not ask you CDS view. It will ask for CDS entity. So obviously, when we publish a CDS view, activate CDS view, both entity and view both will get generated. And let me finish this one. So CDS entity has been added to this. What is this? Include project. If you see all the entity types, everything has been added into this one. Let me save it, generate it. Let it get generated. Okay, that's fine. Please regenerate the project. Okay, I will do it. So once we add any additional CDS views or associations, we must save it and go back to the project, and it might we might need to activate the entire project 2 times. So if you want to refresh anything on your CDS, there is a refresh button as well. You can click on refresh. So this time, let's see if this goes and picks the where is a list of it. The indexes, whatever has been established for existing CDS use, they are not fetching for some reason, but uh, as I'm assuming it should bring. Yeah. If you see here, it is being referenced in two DPC and FPC. Okay, so all two matches to we see two matches here. So earlier there were no matches, but now we see it is being used in two classes. So by this we can easily identify what it is and etc.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So for some reason I'm not able to I'm not able to move forward. Let me open my slides now. So we have some idea what is view level and what is uh, entity level. Okay, and now we know something what is annotation and how at least how it influences. So with the CDSU behavior and etc. So we have learned end user text annotation as well. Okay, and we know alias, what is key and what is SQL ABAP catalog SQL view for it, and at least we know simple data definition creation as well. So let me open my slides. Yeah, good. So we have learned as a practice first. So we have glimpse of CDS view, but now we learn some theory about it, because that is very much important, and what we are working and where we are working, so that we can easily grasp what we have done as well. So first of all, what do we need for CDS views? So CDS views are completely SQL. It's a mixture of open and native SQL, I would say. It's a mixture. It's not completely open SQL that we use in our ABAP, and it's not native SQL that we use on HANA database. So it will be mixture, and we know kind of all these abbreviations, what SQL and what DML, what is DTL, what is DCL. So here, if you see clearly, data manipulation language. So manipulation, we will be influencing all these select, insert, update, delete statements on the database. And DDL, database definition, it will be create, alter, drop, all these statements to create anything. For example, we created database table, data element, domain, search help, whatever. They all will be created in the database in some form of table or whatever. So they are all called data definition language. And even when we consider the HANA artifacts, .hdbdd, .hdbcds, they all influence the DDL functionalities, data definitions. Okay, so there even we will have create view, define view, create view something. Okay, so data control language. So this data control language is something we would be using on HANA database especially. So at the database level, if someone needs to access any of the schema and its underlying tables or anything, that time we must be running a statement grant select on this table to user something. So if we run that query on the database, then only the user will be able to select the data. Again, if the user wants to update anything, grant update, again we need to run the query. So the granting, this will be the completely administrator job. But if we look at our CDS view, access control will be coming under our DCL criteria. Okay, so the access control, we are just specifying whatever the authorization aspects we have in SAP. So we will be using those, and we will be invoking those control keys in the form of access control CDS views. And this is in ABAP what we are doing at the moment. So DML, OpenSQL, we know that we don't need to specifically go into it. So it's not completely in native SQL, we know that. DB independent syntax. So this is yes. So if we are using HANA database, we might be writing the OpenSQL statements accordingly. And if it is running on MaxDB or SQLDB, then our OpenSQL syntaxes might differ. Okay, and DDL, again, it's a ABAP dictionary based, and apart from ABAP dictionary, I think we won't be able to create table anywhere else unless the table is directly created in the database. Again, it has to have a ABAP name on it. And DB independent tool, so it's a database independent. Again, DDL, form based editing of table definitions and views. So here, yes, of course, DDIC SC11 transaction code is a form based editor. We need to edit. If we want to make any changes, we must come to SC11 and make changes onto it. And DCL not needed in ABAP. So we are not controlling anything on table itself, but if we want to lock anything, so you may ask, you may say something lock object. That the purpose of lock object is completely different. We will not be restricting user accessing the data on the table. But this authority check, again, they all will be done at the application level, not at the table level. Okay, so let me go ahead to the OpenSQL limitations on our ABAP programs. So in the ABAP programs up to less than 7.4 versions, so we are not able to code with the expressions. Additional restrictions that we have seen, no union or union all, we won't be able to use all these keys. Limited joins. So effectively, we won't be able to use, if you see here, limited support for joins, inner joins and left outer joins, equi joins and left outer joins, no fields of right table in where class. So there are these. That is why we say it's open SQL because it has the limitations. And general restrictions, no fixed values. So when I say no fixed values from the database, while we are writing a select query, we can't fix some value without a field name, and we can't provide an alias name to that. Okay, but they all are possible after 7.4 syntaxes. Okay, no computed values in the select query itself. We can't compute, we can't do any arithmetic operations, plus minus or something. But in today's SQL, we are able to do it. And no SQL functions, yes. So in the SQL, we don't have any functions, but today we can easily write a currency conversion as a function even in the select statement itself. Okay, and no case expressions. We know this case expression that is explicit to the select statements. out of select statement we will be writing in a loop or somewhere. If this is the case, then do this. This is the case, do this. But in our today's SQL statement, select statements, we can even write these case statements within the database operation itself. So more limitations, yes, this no union or union all is available in the present SQL. And this is where the need of code to data, it's not core data services, code to data. Why the CDS are being more popular, and why the shift is going to be CDS for in the future. So these are all the additional benefits of after using the CDS views on the database. So in memory computing, OLAP, OLTP, these all the terminologies we we are hearing from SAP for lot more times. So this slide is for simplification, and yes, that is true. So these are all the main capabilities when we use code to data. This is not core data services. So using HANA database, the high level single liner statement is using HANA database. Yes, we can achieve uh, the more complex functionalities within less time. That's what the high single liner statements here. So I'm moving forward. So this is what we are saying code to data paradigm. So this code to data paradigm is simply against the principle what we are following in the past. So here we will be just pushing everything onto the database, but in the past it is completely different. So bring the data to the application and perform all the operations, whatever the filtering, whatever, at the application layer itself. But the approach has been shifted, like don't bring anything to application and do everything on your database itself. So push all the calculations or expressions or filtering or whatever you want to do. So our database is more powerful. That's what we have seen in our previous slide as well. So do whatever you want to in the database itself and bring only the necessary or finalized data to application, so that application performance will be increased. Okay, so whenever you say code to data paradigm, yes, we need to push all the code to the database. So as we are on this one, what is the way we push all our code to a database? So number one will be AMDPs. So AMDPs are straight interactions or straight functions, procedures built on database itself. But next is CDS. First AMDP and then CDS. So let me go further. So these lines will give more idea. So this is the fundamental understanding about CDS views, how they are designed on the system, and we will be having lot of confusion in our mind that okay, I'm working on GUI and I'm working on Eclipse to build CDS views, and I'm creating repositories or procedures in my HANA database. So we're doing everywhere. The things are scattered. What am I doing? What is recommended? What uh, in which time I have to pick what it is. So what is the difference if I'm creating same thing on my DDIC table and the same thing is not supporting CDS, and why do I need to create CDS view, and why do I need to use Eclipse, right? So this is the fundamental understanding of it. But this slide is for HANA platform. Let me come back to this in a while. This slide will clear all those doubts in our mind. So if you see here, these are the layers in the product, or whatever this UI rendering or UI application logic. These can be external as well, not only to be a SAP architecture, but underlying these three layers. If you see the database, yes, there is a database schema here, and there is data centric logic and service logic. Both are in application logic, so which is our ABAP layer. And if you see this orange box here, this is the interesting thing. So this is covering, this is not a different layer. This is not a separate layer. This is covering both ABAP layer and the database layer. Okay. So some part of CDS views can be directly built on database, and some part of CDS views are accessed from ABAP. So they just use ABAP layer. So that means these CDS views are also part of ABAP layer, so that whatever has been built on CDS layer, the ABAP layer can make use of it. So rather directly going to database and bringing data to application layer and processing and taking more time and decreasing the performance of the application, the way how ABAP layer should work is, if there is anything or if there is nothing and no CDSU exists as well, it's better to create a CDSU here and access it, so that we will be achieving code to data paradigm in this way. So in our example, whatever we have created there, so for that one, there is no real usage we can see, because it's a plain fields we have added into CDS view, and we are just looking at the data itself. But same database table also exists in ABAP layer. What is the difference between fetching the data from ABAP layer and CDSU? There is no difference in our current example what we have created, because we we are just there is slight difference, but I would say there is no difference. We are not pushing anything calculation. We are not using any expressions. We are not using any calculations on our data fetch. We are not using any AMDPs. Nothing. It's just plain fetch from the database, and we are just showing the data. But still, there will be little benefit, because the way how these CDS views are created. And if I want to tell you the layers how they are arranged, only we are interested in application server, CDS, and database. The database is the bottom layer, CDS is the next layer, and on top of a arrangement is application layer, which is our ABAP layer. So if we keep this in mind, so we will never do a mistake when we have been asked to develop some application, or whether a backend development or any CDS development, anything. So what happens intact here, whenever we create a CDS view, there will be a view database view created on the database itself, backend database itself. Okay, so whatever we try to include, whether if we include 10 number of tables or whatever, that in that way we are achieving code to data paradigm anyway. We are not building anything in the application layer. So how this ABAP application layer views work is, so whatever the views, database views we create, they don't exist in the database. They just having the skeleton at the application layer, and whenever user tries to execute it, the ABAP engine will generate a select query based on all these conditions, and the select query will go to database. Okay, but here in case of ABAP CDS views, so whenever we create a CDS view, it directly goes and creates a database view in the database itself, and it frames the engine, whatever HANA engine here, it frames and indexes everything, whatever the key fields and etc. It improves the performance and it brings back the data in time. Okay, so the bottom layer is database, then CDS, and then ABAP layer. So we need to remember this one. So after this, whatever UI or application, whatever it is, the application can be a GUI transaction as well. If we are asked to build any SE38 program, then there will be no UI and etc. It will be plain ABAP program itself. Application exists here itself. Okay, so here in the CDSU again we have different types of CDSUs. What as we have seen, so we will be learning which type of CDSU behave in which manner. So right now, in the example we have created is there is one DDIC structure created and there is one database view is also created. So is that necessary? Those discussions we will be having further. Okay, now let me go back. So this is the HANA arrangement, HANA database arrangement. So whatever we have, the HANA database on BTP. So BTP, there will be no ABAP layer on that, right? So still, as we have discussed, there will be HANA XSA, Extended Application Server, Application Server Advanced. So XSA engine will be treated as service logic here, and this is completely inbuilt. It is completely a database layer. There will be no application layer at all. This XSA arrangement is inside the database itself. So whenever we develop something, it's a core data services HANA. It's completely inside the database itself. There is no application layer for this arrangement. So it is exactly more faster than ABAP arrangement. If you see here, it's only one layer, I would say. There are no multiple layers. So whatever you create, it's on the database. Even the application, if you create any excess applications, so there are extended application service applications, they are native applications. If you create any of the application, even the source code of this application will be pushed into the database itself. Okay, the complete thing will be running on access engine, see, including application. So we can imagine how the improvement it would be.
But
okay,
we want to access on ABAP. Can we access easily?
so using this one, we can connect this to ABAP on cloud. Okay, so again, there are different concepts available, HDI containers. Okay, using those containers, we will be able to access this one. So the purpose of this is not to mix up with this ABAP layer. Here in the ABAP, we have some core functionalities delivered. The core functionalities means it's enterprise functionalities delivered on this ABAP server. But on the database, no, right? So the database, if we see here, if you the transaction codes, whatever we are entering as part of our daily job, SE01, SE09, or SE38, SE24, whatever, they are all built on ABAP server, ABAP application server, not on the database, right? So in this case, we don't have anything. It's a plain database. It is completely depending on the scenario what we are working on. So here we will not be having any enterprise data inside the database. Okay, but we can use this plain database. That is why the services on BTP, data warehouse cloud, analytics cloud, they're all coming in using these capabilities, and they are surviving on BTP to maximize their performances. Okay,
So, but if we create ABAP CDS, it will create underlying CDS in the database, right?
that is the scenario. Yes,
So
this database.
in HANA.
Yes, if you create any CDS view here, so first thing, this HANA database here, this database here in this uh, ABAP environment arrangement is completely different than this. Okay, this HANA database is different, and this HANA database is different. So if your organization wants to establish a connection between these two databases, yes, they can do. Okay, so they are called SDA and SDI, Smart Data Integration and Smart Data Access. So using that, the replication mechanism, it is again depending upon the client's requirements, from where to where the replication has to happen. Okay.
Chinmay, can you repeat SDA? What exactly it is?
So SDA, it's a Smart Data Access. SDI, Smart Data Integration. So these two concepts are used to connect or replicate data between two databases.
Within underlying SAP, right?
Nope, it's a completely database. So we cannot say it is only SAP principles. So SDA is between two database, any database.
Okay. Data transfer between two database tables.
Exactly. The replication can be replication, or it can be straight access, anything.
Okay.
Okay. So this slide you should always keep in mind. So whereas it helps if some questions, whatever you face, so this will answer all the questions. And this
So
one,
whatever we learn, native CDS, someone is asking you work on native CDS, native HANA, those things.
so native
Correct.
native CDS, there is no thing like native CDS. So it's a native HANA.
HANA CDS.
Yes. So not HANA CDS. Yes, HANA CDS. If you say, this is the way, this is the architecture the customer is in. Okay, so there will be access engine. So and the database will be the BTP database. In this case, the artifacts, whatever we have discussed, .hdb CDS, .hdb dd, okay, .hdb procedure, .hdb sequence, they all will be like, these are all the artifacts we will be creating here. Okay, and also access OData comes here. So if we want to publish anything out from this database, the OData service is called access OData. Okay, and in this case, it's completely in integration with ABAP layer. So and a gateway, everything will come into picture here. So we can't publish the access OData and things like this from here, but unless the customer is having the access arrangement on this particular database. But here we are not saying we are not saying it is HANA database. It can be any database. In this architecture, customer can use any database. But if in specific this case, it cannot work on any database. It will work only on HANA database, whereas access engine can be fit into the database. But the point is, we need ABAP layer for this arrangement. So S4 HANA system is this example. S4 HANA system, or whatever having the ABAP syntaxes more than 7.4. Okay. So this slide here is just explanation how they will use. Okay, so DDL definition language, how it's just as I said, it's not complete. CDS is not complete native and not complete open SQL. It's a mid-range, and we will have all the respective features available to maximize the performance. Okay, So now if you see here, so this is another slide where we have the comparison between ABAP dictionary views and ABAP CDS views. So it's just the in the middle we see the capabilities of it. So what are all those capabilities? Inner join and simple selection only in this side. But this side, inner join, outer join, whatever union, all we can perform all of them. Calculations, expressions. This is something which we have discussed just now. Okay, and on the ABAP dictionary view side, the nested views are not supported. View inside the view and inside the hierarchies and things like that, they are not supported in the web dictionary views. But here we can have n number of views. So in real time, you might be ending up navigating or going deeper views, maybe even possible with 100 CDS views as well. Okay, so next, then two ways of database integration, and it's just HANA CDS and ABAP CDS that just we have seen. If you remember this diagram for ABAP CDS, and this is for HANA CDS. So HANA CDS is completely the database on BTP, and ABAP CDS we have the name itself says ABAP CDS. There is ABAP layer. Okay. So it just says initial focus on building models from scratch. HANA CDS we just built from scratch. But whereas ABAP CDS case, in here SAP has delivered a lot more number of CDS views. If we want to use, we can use them. If otherwise, if we want to go for scratch development of the CDS view, we can do that. And this is the related objects. I think we just have seen what is this DDL and DCL and etc. But in the project, in the package under which directories we see those objects, data definitions will be DDL will be under data definition folder, and access control will be under access control folder, and metadata extensions. So these are the three major types of CDS views, and these three will have individual folders with the same name: metadata extension, access control, and data definition. So that is how we just go ahead and look within the package. So this we know, as we have already created a CDS view using Eclipse. So how this is arranged? So SAP GUI client, if we use it, ABAP Workbench, and using ABAP Workbench, it will be updating to the repository. And if we are using Eclipse client, and here we have the plugins, and after using and editing it, it directly goes into the repository. Okay, and here is the CDS naming rules. CDS naming rules, if you see data definition name, it's a maximum 30 characters. It should be unique. We know this already. It should be in customer namespace as well. Always uppercase, but we can we can use while creating the data definition using camel case as well. But internally on the database, it will automatically convert into uppercase. CDSU entity name. So this entity name we will see when we use the annotations. So maximum 30 characters, unique throughout the system. This we know within the ABAP dictionary, global ABAP types, not case sensitive, can be different from data definition name, but it is not recommended. So this entity we know what we are talking about. Entity, whatever the um, entity we see there within the curly braces, that is what we are talking about. But this data definition name is completely about the view name. And SQL view name, so which has ABAP catalog.sql view name, that we already know about it. So maximum 16 characters. It supports up to 16 characters. And unique, it should be unique. Again, in the customer namespace, ABAP Dictionary, it has to be not case sensitive. Whatever the case we give, it will automatically transfer to uppercase by the ABAP engine. Different from CDS view name. Obviously, it should be different from CDS view name anyway. CDS view name can have more than 16 characters, but it is restricted to 16 characters. Okay, and CDS syntax rules. There are few syntax rules which we need to follow on this one. So keywords, all uppercase, all lowercase, or all lowercase with uppercase initial letter. Initial letter can be lower or uppercase. Rest all must be uniformly mentioned. Either it has to be small case or uppercase. So if you see here example, what it means. So these first three are allowed. Select first in capital letters, and then small letters, and first letter capital letter, and rest all small letters. But not allowed is we shouldn't be using anything in between capital letters or something like this. They are not syntactical errors. And literals, numeric literals, if we want to use any decimal places or things like that, we have to give the full number. If it is 0.5, for example, we should give 0.5, and we shouldn't be giving 0.5 like this. And decimal notations must be always with the period, not with the comma. So comma is used explicitly uh, in the world of HANA to separate between two fields or two separate things. So if you are writing unions or something, so it will be definitely used to separate those, but not like this. So if you take comma, and that's definitely going to be a uh, error. So why do we give comma means? So we know that decimal notation user may have different decimal notations according to their country. So in some other country, the decimal notation may be comma instead of period. So they might be using comma instead of a period. So then in that case, this is an indication or instruction for them not to use comma as a decimal notation in the developments. Okay, and if we are fixing any character values, so we always must use single quotes to specify the string values. And comments, we have, this is the block comment here, slash and then star, then block will start, and star then forward slash will close that block. But if we want to comment any individual lines, then two forward slashes. Separators is going to be semicolon. If you want to separate two things, we will be using this one in terms of AMDPs, which is referred to as table functions. So we will use these even in metadata extensions, we will use this semicolon as separator. And protected words, so it is this exists in all the technologies. Whatever the keywords are reserved for, and we shouldn't be using them as alias names or something like that. Okay, so these are two naming rules and syntax rules. Now it's a hands-on, but actually we did a hands-on and then we came back to our slides. So let me go back to the CDS view.